Hello, Debbie Howard.
Hello.
I'm very pleased to welcome you to a festival called This is England, okay, our British short film festival set in Rouen, okay. So we had the pleasure yesterday to watch on the big screen your last movie, Safe. So you wrote it and you directed it.
Yeah.
It's a short film, a very, very powerful film, and a very big impression on our audience. Can you tell us about the pitch without saying too much about it?
Yeah, so I wanted to make a film that looked at the harassment that women get in public, and I wanted to not make a film that showed any kind of attack or sexual assault. It was about the threat of that and how terrifying that is still, but it's also quite difficult to explain to somebody why it's so scary, because they might often say, but nothing really happened, or if you try to go to the police about it, it's difficult to say exactly what happened because it's quite subtle, but it's absolutely terrifying to be on the receiving end of. So that was what I wanted to look at, because myself and every other woman that I know has been in this situation many, many times in their life. And I wanted to look at the difference between somebody just chatting to you in quite an innocent way, and when they cross a line and you know instinctively, oh, this is a problem now.
Yeah.
So that was the idea. That's where it came from.
All right. So that's the reason why you chose to attack this problem with the short film, because the way you do it is very subtle, and as a man, when you watch that, you feel really embarrassed by what's going on.
Yeah.
And but as you said, it's not too sharp on what kind of attack it is, and so maybe because you also direct documentary, feature documentaries, or you also work for TV, and so for TV series, so maybe you could have treated the same subject either with a documentary film or with an episode, at least, of a TV series, but it would have been, of course, completely different.
Yeah.
And so, so were you first determined to attack the problem the way you've just did it, or was it because you chose the short film that you came up with this idea?
I had the story in mind, first of all. I wanted to look at this subject. And I think it just suited a short film, because it's kind of it's a one scene. It's all set in one scene, in real time, set over like a few minutes. And so, and it's a self-contained incident. So I felt like it suited a short film, because it's just something that happens within a few minutes in one place. And so it was like a perfect option to make it as a short film on its own.
Yeah, and it leaves this impression in your mind when you watch it. It's as if you were in a normal day, something like this happened. It's just one moment in life, and then you keep doing it. But that part is very intense, very strong.
Yeah.
And so about the way you got through the feeling of that woman. How did you write it? The fact about the various shots. It's very impressive how you feel space now being reduced. And so, did you draw storyboarding before shooting, or was it just written?
I think it was just in my mind. I didn't really storyboard it as such. I just had a shot list. But I think I could draw on my own experience. I had a very unpleasant experience on the tube in London many years ago, many years ago, that was similar in as much as, actually they didn't even say anything to me, but it was an empty tube very early in the morning, and I'd been coming out of the tube station up the I was coming into the tube station down the escalator, and two men were coming out, so they were leaving, and I got on an empty train, and they must have come back round, and they got on the train. It was an empty carriage, and I was sat by the glass here, and one of them stood here and one of them stood right here. And it was about 6 minutes between the next station.
All
It's a
right.
long gap. And I just remember the intense fear for that whole time, even though they didn't say anything to me. And I've always wondered what would have happened if I did something different, if I'd have challenged them, asked them anything. So this fear, I still remember it from many years ago. And then my daughter, my mum, my sisters, everybody's stories, there's so many. So it was quite strong in my mind what I wanted to create. So I just worked with that feeling, the feeling that I had from that time. So writing the script was quite straightforward, really, for me.
All right.
And I wanted to shoot it. I wanted it all to be very, very naturalistic. So I wanted it all handheld camera, no music, just trying to get the real intensity of this man imposing and coming into someone's space. And the fact that it was in a bus stop made it quite contained. And the rain outside made it difficult to, that amount of rain. So it was just trying to create this very claustrophobic and intense feeling that a woman would have in that situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it works very well, I must say. So yeah, as you said, rain is very important as it's part of the plot. Because
Yeah.
of course you won't run away in the rain. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. So she tries once to go away, but so it's a single location. But you can feel the lighting is very good too.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean. So in terms of production, when you watch a film like this, you feel, okay, well, single location, they could shoot that in a day, but no, I mean, it's very technical. And so what about the timing of this project, from the idea to first things getting in movement,
Yeah.
first money spent,
Yeah.
and then after that, how you start shooting, editing, etc. So how long did it take?
I think
About-
from writing it to filming it was probably about 9 months. And then we filmed it over 2 nights in Sheffield. And then we edited for quite a while because we were working on very low budgets. So it was like sort of in and around time that we had. I think the edit and then the rest of the post-production took us, I think, a few months, and then it was like a full year before we released it in a festival. It was a year after we shot it, and that's now 2 years ago. So it's 2 years since we shot it now, pretty much this time of year. So I think the first money we spent was when we started filming. So we got some funding, and then we raised other bits of money as well to add to that. As we said, the rain was a very important part of it, but it cost us a huge amount of our budget. Like a third of our budget was spent on the rain. And they did such a good job. It was quite hard to do, to have that amount of rain consistently throughout the film. It was quite tricky, quite challenging technically to do that. So we spent most of all the money really on the shoot, and then we had a little bit left for the post-production. But then that left us really nothing much to submit to festivals.
That's it.
But we were very lucky because the first festivals that happened all at once, 3 at the same time, we won Best Screenplay and Best Director at one festival, Aesthetica Film Festival, which gave they paid money for these, which was fantastic. So we got £2,000. So we were able to spend all of that on festival submissions, which gave the film a much bigger life than it would have had otherwise.
Sure. About the post-production, I was quite amazed at the quality of the sound in your film, because, as you said, rain is important. We can see it, but we can hear it too. But we can perfectly hear the dialogues too.
Yeah.
The same level of sound. So how is it? Maybe it's very technical, I guess.
Yeah.
But what kind of mics do you use when?
Oh gosh, I don't know. We had a really great sound recordist, Adam, and we had a brilliant sound mixer, sound designer, Emma, and I think they just worked their magic. I don't know specifically what they were using, but they're both very good and very experienced, and so they did a wonderful job of that. And I think we had to be really sure that it was being recorded clearly on the day, on the night, because with all the rain and passing traffic and other things. So sometimes we just had to do quite a few takes to make sure we got things clearly. But I was very confident that Adam would, tell us if we needed to do it again, and he did whenever we needed to.
I think it's a very important element of anguish, which is felt, because at the same time you've got image. I mean, as I said before, with the shot getting closer at times, and then when he starts speaking, with the tone of his voice, and everything is sort of subtly, ambiguous in a way, is approaching the woman. And as you said before, nothing is clear, but you can feel threat behind it. So, anyway, you had nice questions yesterday at the Q&A too, about the film. About, as I said, in a way of trying to enlarge this, do you think that you could do something about aggressions against women, the subject of a documentary film, for instance?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have got a feature film in development that looks at, it's a different type of thing, but it is still looking at different kinds of abuse, I suppose, that women experience, but a totally different scenario. But yeah, I'm sure you could make a documentary looking at this as well.
Because the figures are amazing.
Yeah.
How many women are attacked? Well, Britain or France, I mean, it's the same. And
it's terrifying, really. It really is. And it's also, I genuinely don't know a woman that hasn't experienced this, many, many times. And I think that's just like really sad, because we have to take that with us every time we go out.
Yeah, sure.
You're thinking, before you go, you're thinking about how you're going to get home. And I live now very, very close to the train station. It's like 3 minutes walk to my flat from the train station. But at night time, I don't want to walk there because it's quite dark. So I often end up having to get a taxi. It takes longer for me to get a taxi than it does to walk, but it's just too risky. And I think it's things like that people don't always, think about, but it does feel like a real risk, where you park your car, or, so all these things that we've learned to do as women, always having to be aware of those things and think about those things. It kind of curtails your freedom a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah. Well, anyway, as I said before, as a man, when you watch that film, you really feel bad about it, because maybe some men will feel, oh, it's okay. Well, what's the big problem there? But it's so obvious that it's a real problem. And well, when you have women around you, I mean, you know that it's a real problem. And it's amazing that still in 21st century we're still talking about that.
Yeah. And I think, I've had some really interesting conversations after the screenings of this film with women and with men about some of those issues, and just getting people to think a little bit more about maybe their behaviour, but also what they could maybe do to help, be a bit more aware of. Had some conversations with some men. I asked some people, what would you do if you were walking home at night behind a woman? And some people said they'd speed up and get past them. And I was like, but that would be terrifying. It was like cross the road and then just thinking a little bit more about behaviour, and about because like I'm quite a friendly person, I would happily sit in a bus stop and talk to somebody if they were in there. I don't mind talking, But it's understanding that that talking doesn't mean that they're interested in
Of course, yeah.
taking anything further. They're just chatting. And so it's like understanding that it's just a conversation. It doesn't mean anything. And that line needs to be respected and not assumed that that means you want to go home with them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, and things like that, because that still happens so much.
Yeah,
it's like, if you smile at someone or talk to them, they're thinking, oh, they're interested. And it's like, well, no, just being friendly or, you know, respectful or something. So,
yeah. Well, anyway, I recommend everyone to watch your film on the big screen, of course, because, I mean, it's really well mastered in a way that you've got a building of tension, and you really feel what this woman is experiencing at the moment. And when it's over, you think about it. It's very thought-provoking. So thank you very much.
It was lovely to see it on such a big screen with great sound, and thank you very much for inviting us. We really enjoyed being here.
We hope to see you in the future in other film, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.